Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the video. Yet more fuel on the next generation of consoles. Because let's face it, that's really what the PlayStation 4K, the Xbox Next, and all of these other systems really are. Yeah, sure, they are backwardly compatible with the PlayStation 4 or their predecessors, but ultimately, to many, they are being seen as the successor to the current generation. Now, what's rather interesting is during an AMD earnings call, which just took place yesterday, executives from AMD estimated that they're going to be making about 1.5 billion from new SoC production. SoCs, by the way, are system on chips. We'll get more into that in just a second. Now, this, just to be clear, are not for existing SoCs. These are for new chips. And the revenue is going to take place with over the next 3 to 4 years, with the free SoCs delivering production ramping up in the second half of this year, with the SoCs launching by 2017. Well, you might say to yourself, well, okay, but how do we know that they're not for, computerized bath mats? Well, Dr. Lisa Su, the CEO over at AMD, made it very clear that they were related to the gaming sector. She described them as, and I quote, semi-custom business and gaming as the large driver for the Q2's revenue growth. And to continue, if you think about the semi-custom business in the next few years, the third quarter is always the peak. It will be the peak this year as well, but we're starting to see some of the ramping in the second quarter as we build to the stronger third quarter. So she was then asked, well, who are your customers? Ultimately, obviously, for AMD, we are not their customers in this sense. Their customers are Sony, their customers are Microsoft, or whomever ends up buying the chips. And she said, I don't believe we've gone through any detail about who those wins are. I'd prefer to let that come out as our customers are ready to launch. Basically, what she's saying is, yeah, I basically can't break an NDA. I'd love to. Can't. Love to. But I don't want to get sued. It's quite an interesting situation we're in right now. So what are the potentials? What are the potential applications for these chips? Well, the obvious one is, well, the PlayStation 4 Neo. I think that one was a pretty obvious one, which we've exhaustively talked about in the last few days, so I don't want to super in-depth analyze it again. You can tell I'm in a certain mood, can't you? Yeah, but basically speaking, it's of course a PlayStation 4 on steroids. The GPU alone is about 2.27 times faster. You've got a drastically upclocked CPU, and there are obviously some improvements to the memory and other parts of the system as well. Essentially, it's, I wouldn't say it's successor to the PlayStation 4 in that it's the PlayStation 5, or you could call it the PlayStation 5, but it's the successor in that if you don't own a PS4 right now, there's a very good chance you're going to want to buy the PS4K instead. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if certain software in the future, particularly for PSVR, is, I wouldn't say unplayable with the vanilla system, but I would go as far as to say it would be a much better experience with the 4K. With the Xbox Next, your guess is basically as good as mine. There have been a few rumours which have popped out. We've heard everything from Microsoft that are experimenting internally with parts that would, and I quote, upgrade a PC, all the way down to that they're just simply relaunching the Xbox One as a cost-reduced slimline model, which, to be honest with you, would be pretty good. I mean, let's say for the sake of argument, and this is purely going well over the top, but let's say they released the Xbox One drastically cut down, let's say $199 to $250 US. I think it would sell pretty well, and that would be an entry-level Windows 10 gaming device, and then for high-end they would of course have the PC, or maybe they're also going to release a mid-range Xbox One, or should I say a more powerful Xbox One, which could be anything from higher clocked processor and graphics card, all the way to, well, upgraded chips, which it might be. For all we know, these new SoCs are basically just improvements over what they've already got. It could just be die shrinking, or it could be a drastic increase in performance. The NX is another example. We've heard everything from the NX. Certain people have said that the previous rumours with the NX being roughly on par to the PlayStation 4K are actually false, whereas others maintain that they're 100% accurate. What we can say though is that AMD is certainly in contention with the NX to release, or rather to supply the chips for the NX. This is particularly true if they're going to be releasing it for mobile. The other potential chips, of course, for the NX are ARM, but some folks have said that this is not going to happen because Nintendo really want to make it easy to port code over from the PlayStation 4 / the Xbox One / what have you to their own system. So, is there anyone else? Well, actually, yes. This one's maybe a bit unbelievable for you, but it's actually Apple, and it's for iMacs. So, we all know that, well, Macs are pretty popular, so announcing a win, like saying you've released a custom SoC, an x86 based SoC, just to clarify, for iMacs would be pretty damn awesome. And from what we've heard, AMD and Apple have revealed that they are working together. Why? Well, they want to release Polaris-based GPUs for Macintoshes, which would be pretty awesome. I know I'm really a PC gamer, and yeah, you can make the argument about PC being Mac and all of this stuff, but still, it's only a good thing. It's only going to increase market share, and that's only a good thing for us as gamers, right? It's like, why would you not want extra systems to game on? Why would you want to make the ecosystem smaller? One last thing, just for those who are unsure what a system on chip is, you can basically think of it as, well, all of the main components together on the same die. There are some exceptions, like for example, you're not going to put GDDR5 memory on there, you're not going to put DDR3 memory, but if we were talking about the Xbox One, for example, you would have the Xbox One's CPU, you would have the Xbox One's GPU, you would have the Xbox One's ESRAM, some sound chips and other components all squeeze onto what is essentially the same circuitry. And the benefit behind that is its cost reduction, so you can start eventually moving everything on there, and you can start reducing the complexity of the PCB / motherboard. Back in the day, for example, it used to be that you would have components for the South Bridge, for the North Bridge, for the, well, just about everything would have separate components across the motherboard. Now this is starting to become all together, and processors are starting to become considerably more complex. They're starting to, I guess you could say, integrate the bridges into the CPU, which means that, for example, the I don't know, USB chips are now being handled by the CPU in many instances. But anyway, in this case, with this news, it's really not an answer that, you know, a certain company are using AMD, but the fact that there are 3, it's pretty much at this point a given that we're going to be seeing at the very least the Xbox Next or the NX using them. And once again, this is assuming that the PS4K is real, which I think we can all agree it is right now. I mean, Sony haven't officially confirmed it, but let's face it, we know it's happening. So really, even if you say that's out, so one of the 3 custom chips is done, that leaves 2. That means that you've either got the NX and the Xbox Next, or the NX and the Max, or the Xbox and the Max. We just don't know. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.